On May 4th, 2024, the Little Tokyo Community Council held a food history walking tour of the neighborhood. This was one of many events in an annual series called Delicious Little Tokyo, which highlights the cuisine and culture of the area. One of the tour guides, Bill Watanabe, introduced the tour by talking about the origins of Little Tokyo.
Now, Little Tokyo got started in the year 1884. What happened was there was a Japanese cook on a Western American ship that had docked in San Diego. He jumped ship and in 1884 came to LA and he started a restaurant. Now in 1884 he was about the only Japanese person here, so it was not a Japanese restaurant. It was a Western style restaurant, but he was a cook on a ship, so he knew how to make that food. And so he opened his restaurant right across the street where Bunkado gift shop is. And within a couple of years, he was doing really well. And he sold a business for a ton of money and he became a rich man. So Japanese in Japan and in San Francisco and Hawaii and Seattle, they all heard about Hamanosuke Sugita and the fact that he made it big in this town called Los Angeles.
The first stop on the tour was Far East Cafe, which is known for its classic neon chop suey sign and was opened in 1935 by the Zhang family, who were Chinese immigrants.
We're standing right in front of the Far East Cafe. If you look up, you can't read it from here, but there is a chop suey, neon chop suey sign that says chop suey on there. Anybody here happen to know what chop suey means? Chinese, Chinese? I didn't know myself, so somebody told me. Okay, it means cooking with whatever ingredients you happen to have. Could be leftovers, could be scraps of this or that. It was cheap, it was tasty, there was a variety of stuff. Everybody loved it. Little Tokyo by itself had 4 chop suey restaurants. This is the last remaining one on the sign. But there was 3 on First Street and a 4th one on Second Street. There was 4 of them here. That's how popular it was. Now today, if you're a Chinese restaurateur, you do not want a neon sign flashing leftovers, whatever. It's like, you know, they want Mandarin this or Szechuan that kind of thing. So all the chop suey signs are pretty much gone. This may be the last one left in the country, a neon sign that still says chop suey on there.
The second stop was Suehiro Cafe, which used to be the location of a sushi restaurant called Tokyo Kaikan. Suehiro Cafe closed its doors this year after their rent was raised.
Now 337 East First Street, that's this location. There was a restaurant here called Tokyo Kaikan back in the 1960s. Now, if you've ever had a California roll invented by the chef here in guessing around 1961. There are a couple of other places that said, no, we invented the California roll. There's a restaurant in Vancouver, Canada, says they invented. I said, come on, you're in Canada, what would you call it the California roll? To me, I totally dismissed that. Now, there was a guy named Noritoshi Kanai. He owned Mutual Trading Company, which was a Japanese food import company, still is. And about 10 years ago, he was 90 years old at the time, he told me that he was there with the chef in 1962. He provided the ingredients and saw him invent the California roll. So I'm going to take his word for it.
The third stop was Fugetsudo Bakery Shop, which opened in 1903 and is known for its traditional Japanese confectionaries like mochi and manju.
This is called Fugetsudo Confectionery Store. Sage Kito, Mr. Kito, started in 1903. Now, the thing that's kind of historic or fun, Mr. Kito is credited with the invention of the fortune cookie. The fortune cookie is a Japanese rice cracker that's folded over, and what Mr. Kito did was he put inside a piece of paper with a Japanese haiku. How'd you know that? Now, there was, again, some contention. Who was really the first to have here in America. The Smithsonian Institute, they did some research, and they found out that Mr. Quito was probably the earliest one. They came here, asked Brian, the grandson, for the mold that's used to make the fortune cookie, and it's now at the Smithsonian Museum.
The fourth stop was the Little Tokyo Timeline on the corner of First Street and Judge John Iso Street in Los Angeles.
Each line represents a decade, so this is the 1890s, 1900s, 10s, 20s, 30s, and this darker line is the 1940s, the war years.
Oh, I see.
In 1890, approximately 40 Japanese in Los Angeles. As I mentioned back in 1884, when Mr. Sugita came here, he was one of only a handful of Japanese here. But by 1930, almost all 35,000 Japanese in Los Angeles lived within a 3-mile radius of this corner.
The fifth stop was the original location of Sapporo Ramen, which was the first ramen noodle restaurant in the U.S.
There was a building here before the 1994 Northridge earthquake, but because of the earthquake, they demolished the building. But this used to be a photography studio here for a photographer named Toyo Miyatake, who was a pretty well-known photographer. He hobnobbed with people like Ansel Adams and Ed Weston and Dorothea Lange. And he had a building with 2 commercial storefronts. And in one of those storefronts, there was a new restaurant that opened up in the early 60s called Sapporo Ramen. Now, ramen noodles had been served for many years, so ramen noodles were not new. What was new is to have a restaurant dedicated to mostly ramen noodles. It's the first one of its kind in the United States. And so that was called Sapporo Ramen, which was here.
The sixth stop was where mochi ice cream shop Mikawaya used to be. We also ate pastries from Mitsuru Cafe at this location.
We are going to get what's called imagawa yaki. Okay, imagawa yaki. Again, that is a sweet cake with sweet bean inside. But when it's made fresh, it's still warm. It's really quite good. Mikawaya sold the business. Again, they made a ton of money. And so, unfortunately, after 110 years, they left Little Tokyo, and it's become a corn dog place.
The seventh stop was the original location of Shabu Shabu House, which the owners claimed to have been the first Shabu Shabu restaurant in the U.S.
Now, the owner of this Shabu Shabu restaurant, not this one now, but the one before, he told me around 1990 that he is the first Shabu Shabu restaurant in America. And I have to think, prior to this opening up, I don't recall ever seeing another Shabu Shabu restaurant, so I tend to believe him.
The eighth stop was Cafe Dolce, which opened in 2011 and is known for their Asian fusion baked goods.
You're going to get a taste of Cafe Dolce pastry. I don't know what to call it. It's kind of like a donut hole with something inside, but the proprietor is a man named James Choi. He's Korean American, but he's a very active part of the Little Tokyo community. And to me, he's a good example that you don't have to be ethnic to be a part of this. You just have to appreciate the history and culture of the neighborhood and be a part of it. So he provides donuts and coffee for community meetings and that kind of thing. And so, he's become a big part of our community. He started here, his mom helped to open up the shop. He now has like 5 of these throughout LA. He's got 2 over by the USC campus.
The ninth and final stop was Koraku Japanese Ramen and Grill, which was founded in 1976 and is known as the US's oldest Japanese ramen noodle restaurant still in operation.
Koraku Restaurant is another ramen noodle shop. It is about to be designated as a Los Angeles City Historic Cultural Monument because it is, and it's kind of been verified, still going through the process of designation, as the oldest continuously operating ramen noodle shop in the country. Now, I pointed out on First Street was the first. That was Sapporo Ramen. back in 1962. They've been in business since about 1975. That's going on about 50 years, which is a long time for any restaurant to be in business, but they've been serving ramen noodles for a long, long time. If you've never tried ramen noodles, you may want to go here. You can go to any of them. I mean, there's about a dozen of them right here in Little Tokyo. They have things like the Popeye ramen. What do you think Popeye ramen is? Spinach, yeah, so it is very healthy. You can give it a try. So they have all different kinds of ramen that you can have here.